that is, and to get to know about the people that are there. I think about this area here, and about Granville Street being a trail, and Kingsway being a trail, and those other communities out there. And we know about Kitsilano, the people were removed from their community um, not that long ago, you know. So just thinking about all the displacement that we have now, and about all the people that are needing support, and how we need to support them. We need to look at them and to give them the respect and the dignity that they're so deserving of. So I really want to put that forward to you today, and to say welcome to the territory. You know, that's something that the Squamish people and the Musqueam and the Tsleil-Waututh people did for many years. People would have to acknowledge when they were landing their boats, and ask for permission to land. So just thinking about what a big difference and a big change there is now today. So I just really wanted to put that out there. And I got this talking stick from one of the organizations here, and I'm so thankful for and blessed to be working with the Pacific Association of First Nations Women. Thank you so much for listening and for being here today. Nyango.
Diana, thank you so much for getting us started. And it's such a reminder of the things we take for granted, and just to pause and think about the significance. So thank you very, very much for joining us and being with us on this important day.
Thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
Diana Day. So I would like to acknowledge that there has been a lot of work done in organizing today's event. Thank you to the First Call staff, to the steering committee, to Adrian, Alicia, Anastasia, Susan, Layla, and all of those on the steering committee for their work. I'd also like to thank the sponsors this afternoon. Without them, we would not be able to do this work. So thank you to all of the sponsors who you can see now on your screen. We appreciate you, and we appreciate you being able to put the force of your money behind the good work that the folks at First Call are doing. We also have many important guests with us this afternoon, and I do like to linger here on the important guests. So Dinah, maybe you'll help me to acknowledge these folks, because these are elected officials who are taking their time out to lean into an event like this one. So Minister Dean, Minister Chen, Minister Malcolmson, Minister Mark, Minister Simmons, MLA Anderson, MLA Chant, MLA Leonard, MLA Rutledge, MLA Sandhu, and MLA Padon, and also former MLA and Minister Shane Simpson. He's been around a while. Shane, thanks for leaning into this. Janet Fraser, the chair of the Vancouver School Board, and also, of course, the representative for British Columbia for Children and Youth, Jennifer Charlesworth. Thank you all for joining us today.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Such an honor.
Thank you, Diana. All right, now I'd like to introduce Adrian Montani. Adrian really requires no introduction in this circle. Adrian is the provincial coordinator of First Call, and she's going to talk about some of First Call's achievements over the past year, none of which would be possible without all of you and the work that you do. So Adrian, over to you. Thank you for everything you do and for leading all of us day by day by day to lean in and help children and families across British Columbia.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here today. I thank you, Diana, for that lovely reminder of the lands I'm calling in from the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Squamish territories as well in Vancouver. Thank you for the reminder about the lands we're on. I want to thank everyone who's on the call or on the Zoom thing with us today for working together with us and taking your time out today to support First Call and to help us honor two very special people. We were lucky last year in February to be able to gather in person, and we didn't realize how lucky we were given what's happened since. That was just before the pandemic hit. And since then, we've all been in this vortex of change from both for our team, for all of our member organizations, as we shifted to working from home or working remotely, meeting on Zoom, all of those kinds of things. So it's been a tough year in a lot of ways, but on the other hand, we can look at the bright side. participation, we have monthly coalition meetings at First Call, and our participation in our monthly coalition meetings has grown quite exponentially. We even added a July meeting. We usually would take July and August off, but we added a July meeting last year because there was so much interest and people were available, probably because they couldn't take holidays in the same way. But anyway, there's been huge participation despite the challenges of the pandemic. And I think this underscores the importance that we all attach to standing up for children, youth, and families, especially during a health crisis like this. So our advocacy issues on many issues span the 4 keys to success, which you can see on the slide here. They've not faltered. Our advocacy on all of these areas have not faltered. These are the commitments, for those of you that don't know First Call well, these are the commitments that guide and ground our work to improve the lives of children and youth in the province. And as always, it is the commitment of our many members, member organizations, our supporters, our donors and partners in government and outside of government that have made this work possible. Our coalition now stands at 110 member organizations from nearly every discipline and sector impacting children's lives: health, education, early childhood, youth services, newcomer settlement, Indigenous leadership and decolonization and services, violence prevention, inclusion of children with support needs, people who do research, people who direct service, more and more, lots of things. So it's the richness of our coalition that really makes the difference and makes us as powerful, I hope, as we are and can be in achieving those 4 keys to success. So for a quick overview of some of our work, I'm going to just show a few slides here that outline some of the campaigns and issues we've been working on. So first of all, here are 3 campaigns that all are aimed at eliminating child, youth, and family poverty, reducing income inequality, and supporting youth in those transitions. So our annual Child Poverty Report Card, BC Child Poverty Report Card, which we do in conjunction with Campaign 2000, those are national partners who produce a national report card and other provincial report cards. The Living Wage for Families campaign, which is one of the solutions to child poverty, and the Fostering Change campaign, which is really laser focused on increasing supports for youth transitioning out of government care. And I'm not going to talk a lot about that one today in my remarks because we have a little presentation for you afterwards. Next slide, please. So to focus on the report card for a minute, because it is one of the big tools that we use every year. We publish every year in November, we published the 24th annual BC Child Poverty Report Card last November, and it documents the pre-pandemic poverty statistics, the scope of child poverty and of income inequality among families in our province. And then because the pandemic was with us and we knew we were publishing historical data at that point, then we needed to talk to a lot of families. And so we've collected a lot of stories and from conversations with families about what they were going through, having perhaps already lived in poverty and then going through COVID-19 and what that meant for them. So this crisis. And as always, we have in the report card, we have plenty of recommendations for action that government can take. There's 26 recommendations in this year's report card for provincial and federal governments, the things that we know will help move that dial faster on ending child poverty. So also on the report card, we are very grateful. So as this slide shows some maps that you can see on the website where we host this website is still1in5.ca. So we're very grateful for the partnership of Spark BC, one of our member organizations, in producing these maps so that we post so people can see the child poverty data in their region, in their urban community, and if you're in the Metro Vancouver area, actually by neighborhood. So they can see inequities and where child poverty is most concentrated in our province and in our communities. And this work is supported by a grant from the Vancouver Foundation and from Vancity Community Foundation this past year. And also just when you look at these maps, you can see, if you look into the Human Early Learning Partnership website out at UBC for the early development instrument maps, you'll see that the poverty maps with the vulnerabilities of young children. So it's part of the data picture we need to look at. Next slide, please. So living wage, we know from monitoring child poverty stats for years that most poor children in the province have parents who are in the workforce, whether full-time, full year, or part-time, or part of the year, and they are still living in poverty. Either they don't get enough work or their wages are too low. So many years ago, we started with others, the Living Wage for Families campaign, and we hosted here at First Call. And it's despite, again, the pandemic, because we know this is, therefore, if most children live in families who work with parents in the workforce, then we know one of the biggest solutions is to make sure that they earn enough income in that work. So that's why we were so invested in this. And it's a voluntary solution. We ask employers to just certify and make the commitment that they will become living wage employers according to the calculation that we publish every year. So despite the campaign, the pandemic, sorry, the campaign has made huge progress this year. We now have over 200 certified living wage employers in the province. Over 500 employees got a raise this past year, specifically because their employers signed on to the commitment to become a living wage employer. We have a growing number of large employers. You can see 8 municipalities there who have contractors also who are required. So we're seeing the ripple effect, required to pay living wages. So we're seeing ripple effect in construction, in security, in those kinds of contracts that cities have with large employers, other kinds of large employers. And First Nations, we have the Hawaiian First Nation, Squamish First Nation have also certified Squamish First Nation just this year. So this campaign is also supported by Van City and several of our labor partners, and we're very grateful for that support. I'm not going to add that we've also made very big strides in that Fostering Change campaign, but again, I'm not going to go over it here because we do have a visual presentation following my slides. Next in. So some other ones in those first 4 keys to success, we never want to forget how important the early years are, and we have an early childhood development roundtable that meets regularly throughout the year, which is part of our commitment to acting on that evidence of that early brain development, those crucial moments in early childhood where families need great support and children need quality programs and support. This motivates us. So we, in that venue, in the early childhood roundtable, we have all these activists who come together around that, and we advocate for healthy babies, more home visits. We would like to restore home visits, universal home visits from public health nurses for mothers and babies. We work with childcare advocates on the $10 a day childcare plan and quality childcare as a huge poverty reduction measure, child development measure, of great importance in many ways. Early supports, we work with a group of our members around the Kids Can't Wait campaign, which is looking at children with support needs or developmental disabilities and how they are they're stuck on wait lists sometimes for things like speech therapy. So we have a campaign we're working on to bring attention to that and give those families and those children the support they need and deserve. And also always looking sort of at the what can families raising young children, where can they find in their communities, the local drop-in center, the parent, the family place, the family resource program, where can they not be isolated and find barrier-free services. So that table does very important work, and we're very proud of it. Next slide, please. And lastly, a couple of quick campaigns I wanted to highlight for a very long time, a long-standing campaign to improve. We had a campaign to improve child labor standards in British Columbia. And that work was finally rewarded in 2019 with legislation to raise the work start age to 16. So it had been dropped down to 12. So this is more in line with international standards around protecting young people in the workforce. So under 16, there need to be special rules and protections in place for young people who are working to keep them healthy and safe. And so that was passed. And we're very happy to see that outcome, but we are still waiting. The pandemic interfered and slowed down the process in publishing and developing the regulations that come with that legislation. So we're still working with government on that, and we hope to see that come out this year, where we will really see where the rubber hits the road. How are those special protections going to be put into regulations to keep young people safe? And then last but not least, we have long been part of a nationwide campaign to repeal Section 3 of the Federal Criminal Code. We work with people across the country on this. Despite a promise in by the federal government that was elected in 2015 to make this change to abolish or to repeal Section 43, which is a defense in law that you can hit children or punish them with corporal punishment or physical punishment. This is also one of the calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and there have been several promises to make this happen. It has not yet happened, so we are still pushing for this. Children have a right to be protected from violence from any of the adults in their lives, whether it's family or parents or wherever they are in the community, just as any of us as adults would. So we want to see this protection or excuse for hitting children taken out of the criminal code. Meanwhile, of course, we work very hard, and many of our members do, on the other side of just helping parents understand and learn and embrace how to be more effective and caring in the ways they raise their children without physical punishment. And we know we've been chastised by the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child several times for having this law still in effect. Next slide, please. So those are some campaigns. I wanted to give you just a quick snapshot. We did have a provincial election last fall. So example of some of the kinds of tools that we produce for use by our coalition members and the public to advocate during election time, so people can see what's at stake in this election. What are some of the issues that we might find change on depending on how we vote in elections. So these two shareables, as we call them, from the last provincial election focus on our request to government to strike a BC children's safety and wellness task force during COVID and during as we come out of the pandemic. We didn't achieve that yet, but we're still pushing for that focus on children in various ways through various ministries. And so that was one thing. And then also, again, the COVID-19 raised for us, really shone a light on how inequitable digital access was, since everybody's had to retreat to our homes and there's online learning, and how do you apply for this and that without access, without a device, without an internet connections, poverty being one of the chief barriers for people. So we raised that issue as well. Next slide, please. And a couple more. We advocated and still are, and we'll take up this work this year as well, the issue of sex trafficking of children. It's on the rise in BC. The average age of recruitment of young people, mostly girls, into sex trafficking is 13. We've done some work at our coalition meeting, so we are talking to government, and we'll continue about this. We want increased funding, especially for prevention education, early intervention, enforcement, of course, and dedicated services when we get to those who have already been victimized by sex trafficking, and we need special supports to help them exit that and heal. So that was one. And then on the school food program, we work jointly with people in the Coalition for Healthy School Food across the country again, and have many advocates here in British Columbia working to try and look at the models that other countries have, where healthy food is part of what you get in school. And we'd like to see that here in BC as well. So those are just, again, some examples of some of the issues that weren't covered in specific campaigns that we're still working on. Next slide, please. And one last slide here. We worked really hard on this and created a report that compared provincial child benefits across the country and how come BC had such a small one. We presented that report to government, and government responded positively to our report and our recommendations, and created the BC Child Opportunity Benefit, which some of you, if you are parents, may have started receiving, perhaps if you have older children that weren't getting it before, or you might have gotten an increased amount depending on your income. So this new Child Opportunity Benefit that started in October covers children all the way to 18, increased amount, and it invests a significantly larger amount every year, a new annual investment in our children, particularly those living in low-income families. So we're very proud of that advocacy and grateful that government responded. In fact, we will be honoring Carol James today, and Carol James was the Minister of Finance when she helped make this happen. And so it's one of the many reasons we're honoring her today. So I'm going to stop here with my slides and let you see a more creative presentation of the accomplishments of the Fostering Change campaign in 2020, which is also generously supported by the Vance City Community Foundation, the Children's Aid Foundation of Canada, and many individual donors. So thank you very much for being here again. And here's Fostering Change.
Okay. I guess the universe is telling us to pay attention to the Fostering Change campaign and keep it coming back so it echoes in our minds. Thank you very much for that overview, Adrian. So much work being done right across the province, and just another opportunity to say thank you so much to the people who continue to support First Call so that all of this important work can continue and move us forward to be able to look after kids and families in the province and support them to grow and become stronger and more unified in their lives. It is such a reminder when Adrian says the 1 in 5 statistic. We've been talking about this number for several years now, and I do wonder how much people really understand the suffering that is underway. So it is something to give us pause and to sort of unify us in our determination to make a difference. So this afternoon, we are honoring a couple of people who make that kind of a difference every day. First Call's Child and Youth Rights Award. The first recipient is the former Minister of Finance, Carol James. And to introduce Carol and to explain why this award is being handed to her is Carol's friend and colleague, Charlie Beresford. Charlie, over to you.
Thank you very much. I just had a technical moment there trying to click my camera on. I would like to begin by acknowledging that I am here today on the traditional territories of the Algonquin-speaking people, the Songhees and the Esquimalt. I'm actually seated across the street from the legislature today. I am truly honored to be here with First Call and all of you today. And I am particularly honored to be introducing my friend and social justice warrior, Carol James. I first came to know Carol in her dual role as chair of the Greater Victoria School District and chair of the BC School Trustees Association. At the time, she was leading a highly sensitive discussion in all corners of the province around amalgamation of school districts. She brought everyone to the table, and this is Carol's trademark, worked across all sectors to build a governance solution that would benefit the people at the core of her work, our youth, and especially our vulnerable youth. Her work was profoundly informed by her experience as a foster sister and a foster parent, and her commitment to fairness, her orientation to social justice, her compassion and passion have fueled all of her personal and professional endeavors. This is true of Carol in all the phases of her life of public service or her public service life. Those are interchangeable. Through those long hours at the school board table, through her leadership at the BC School Trustees Association, through her work in childcare as a civil servant, through her work in the north of our province with an Indigenous service organization, as a provincial politician and leader of her party, and through her work as the Finance Minister of British Columbia. At every step of the way, Carol has found a way to bring people together, to find solutions, to make lasting change, and to protect, support, level up the playing field, and build opportunity for all of us, especially our youth. I have here today a message from the BC Aboriginal Childcare Society. It is really symbolic, representative of all we would want to say about Carol today. Let me begin. Congratulations to Carol. She has played a key part to the success of the Society to support Indigenous children's families. Her help in providing funding to develop and grow the Aboriginal Childcare Resource and Referral Program that has become a backbone of the Society, and her continued support and championing of Indigenous children and families has made a huge difference. We thank her for her unwavering care and recognize her industrious, thoughtful contributions and the positive impact that is her legacy. There are many Carol stories, and I know that many of you have them too. It is not possible to have met or worked with Carol and not come away feeling hopeful, respected, and helped. Of all of these stories, there are two that Carol herself would flag, and I expect you'll be hearing about them in more detail shortly. They are the fight to protect music in the classrooms of Victoria schools, and secondly, establishing free tuition for kids in care. Each foundational, each equalizing, each about leveling out, just as the child opportunity benefit is. Through it all, Carol's social justice warrior heart has carried her and many others through. She has truly made a difference, and I know that there are more stories to come. Let us welcome our honoree today, Carol James.
Thank you so much, Charlie. A little overwhelmed, I have to say, but I want to express my huge appreciation to you, Charlie, for your kind words, to First Call for this extraordinary award. Now, all of you won't be here in person, so you won't be able to see the beautiful award. No surprise that First Call would have one of the most gorgeous awards going. This is recycled wood, British Columbia wood, of course, and it really is amazing. So I want to say how honored I am to receive this award and how much it means to me coming from First Call, because I've had the privilege of working directly with First Call in a number of different hats that I've worn, whether it's school board days, my days as director of childcare, or whether it was opposition leader or in government. And I know the amazing work they've done. And that really makes the award even more meaningful, coming from an organization that we all benefit from here in our province. I want to recognize I'm on the traditional territory of the Songhees and Esquimalt people and thank them for the ability to meet on their land today here at my home. And so thank you. And certainly while I'm incredibly touched to receive this award, there isn't anything I've done in my life or in my work that hasn't been done as a team effort. And in fact, I don't believe it's possible to accomplish what all of us should be working for children and youth in our province, in our communities, nationally and internationally, unless we do that together. The issues are just too complex. They cross over sector lines. They can't be solved in isolation. And so I guess I have the opportunity, I'm learning at this stage of my life and my career, to leave my 2 cents worth with people, to be able to talk about what I've learned, and to leave as encouragement for others. And so today I just want to take my couple of minutes to really encourage you to continue the work that I know many of you are doing, most of you are doing, to be able to engage across sectors, to be able to engage and build teams across the usual lines, because the issues, as I said earlier, that we face are so complex that we're not going to solve them by ourselves. We have to bring people together to be able to do that. And that's a tough thing to do in today's society, for lots of good reasons. There is a lot of impatience in getting things done. And I think we heard the work that the First Call has done and continues to do. Understandably, people want those things to be completed. Many of you have put your lives into this work, and there's impatience and often sometimes anger at not moving quick enough. And that creates divide. That often means that people don't work together, that they push others out. And I truly believe that unless we find a way to be able to have that dialogue across sectors, we're not going to accomplish what we need to accomplish for the people we're all here to do work for. The pandemic has reminded us of that. COVID is not an equal opportunity pandemic or virus. We know the challenges that families are facing, that women in particular, and that children are facing. And so it's more important than ever, from my perspective, for us to determine how we create the opportunity for the big issues to be discussed. And I want to just talk about a couple of really quick examples. I know that Sharon Gregson probably had the same reaction I did yesterday. I had to go back and listen to the clip twice to make sure I was really hearing properly. The governor of the Bank of Canada saying that he hoped he'd see childcare in the federal budget. I mean, what an extraordinary accomplishment to be able to hear those words from the governor of the Bank of Canada. when people have spent more than their life's work. There are children who are in childcare who are now fighting for their children to go into childcare, who've put that effort in. Well, the only reason all of that success occurred, from my perspective, one of the main reasons that that occurred, is because it became a broad issue across our communities. It became an issue and a dialogue because of all the advocates, because of all of you at First Call, because of the work of the organizations listening today, to make it an issue across sectors. I heard employers in my role in opposition and in government talking about the importance of childcare, talking about how critical that piece was to be able to deal with economic issues in our province and social issues in our province. And so I think childcare is one of those examples where we saw those partnerships built, whether it was all the meetings that so many of you attended, to municipalities, to business groups, to organizations, as well as all the usual people who are involved in childcare, that created the kind of success and the kind of space where government was pushed to continue to move on this. And I'm so proud. I know a number of my past colleagues are here today. So proud of the team effort that was made to bring childcare forward as not simply an election issue, but in fact, an action plan when government occurred. And then the other piece I just want to mention in the couple of minutes I have is the work as well that occurred around housing. Because again, housing was often seen as a social issue, and I don't mean to imply that we've solved those issues. We still have all those issues to address. But in the 2017 election, when I saw business groups like the Vancouver Board of Trade, like the BC Business Council, the Chamber of Commerce, coming forward and saying that both childcare and housing needed to be on the agenda as business issues, as economic issues, as well as social issues. I have to say, it really showed me the strong success of building those coalitions, because again, it provided the space and the opportunity to be able to take those issues forward. And then Charlie talked about a couple of issues that have been close to my heart, that have taken part in over my fortunate career and the opportunities I've been given. And that is the music program work. When I attended my granddaughter's music concert a number of years ago and thought back to those days of fighting for holding on to the arts in education, and what an impact that had and how that had personally impacted in our family, to see her playing in the orchestra, to see her playing in the band. And then tuition free for former youth in care. I don't think there was a dry eye the day the Premier stood up and announced that, and many of us were there cheering on, either in person or back at our jobs. And again, from the 20 years that I was a foster parent, from the foster children that my grandparents had growing up, I know the challenges, I know the issues that were there, and I know what a life-changing decision that was. And still work to do, no question about it. But to be able to be involved in that again, which really showed the work that happens across sectors and across lines. So while we're in a very challenging time when it comes to having dialogue, there are probably more divides in society than there are uniting times. I'm an optimist. I've always been an optimist, and will continue to be optimistic about the work we can do. I think this is a very unique time as we come out of COVID-19 to make sure that we rebuild in a way that is going to be inclusive, that is not going to leave people behind, that's going to recognize that some of those inequities that have always been there, that have been amplified by COVID, that we have a chance to be able to fix them, that we have a chance to bring people together across lines, that we can create that dialogue. That is ultimately going to benefit children and youth. So huge appreciation for this recognition, huge appreciation for sharing it with everyone who's been involved in the team efforts that I've had the privilege to be able to do in my life over my career. And lastly, just a huge appreciation to all of the groups and organizations that work in this field each and every day. You really do provide the passion and the drive for the positions that I've been in to have the ability to do our work. because of your passion. You truly are, as I always say, the fabric of a community that knits a community together. And so this award is for all of you as well. And thank you to First Call once again for the recognition. It truly, truly means a great deal to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol, for those words and the inspiration that is behind them, and for all the hard work over the years. And sincere congratulations to you for being our first recipient of this award today. I would now like to introduce Susan Russell Cheney, and she's going to make a special presentation on behalf of today's second award recipient, Catherine McFarland. So over to you, Susan.
Thank you. I'm joining you today from the unceded territory of Keekite First Nation in New Westminster, and in my role as campaign organizer of Fostering Change at First Call. First Call was planning to honor Catherine with this award as of last October. The news of her devastating passing on December 4th left that decision unchanged, but with different purpose. Posthumously, First Call chooses to honor Catherine McFarland by drawing recognition to the connection she created and her commitment to advocacy through her work with youth in and from care and with those of lived experience of youth homelessness. Catherine co-founded and served as executive director of Away Home Kamloops Society and co-founded the BC Coalition to End Youth Homelessness. To accept the award on Catherine's behalf and tell us more about Catherine's many achievements is her friend and colleague, Kira Cheeseborough. Like countless members of the community who are impacted by Catherine's connection, Kira remains rooted in action and inspired to end youth homelessness. Kira describes her relationship with Catherine as friend, sister, and colleague. Catherine was a mentor who was there for her anytime, no matter what. She was her family and will forever still be in her heart and memories. If not for Catherine, Kira believes she would not be here today. As a community of youth, including myself, Catherine shared with us many feelings, and we will hold her forever in our hearts. When we think of Catherine, we think of community connection and championing the cause of ending youth homelessness. The advocacy world seems so scary without Catherine's presence, but we know by the way that she inspired us that her legacy of advocacy will continue. Catherine's actions were always rooted in lived expertise, and what she has accomplished in forwarding the issue of youth homelessness will endure, just as how she made us feel as a community, loved and inspired. Kira, will you please share more details of Catherine's many accomplishments that were rooted in action? Kira.
Thank you, Susan. And thank you, First Call, for honoring Catherine's life in such a special way. I'm deeply grateful to be accepting this award on Catherine's behalf. I am joining today from the traditional and unceded territory of Tecumlip's to Secwepemc within Secwepemc. I honestly don't know of anyone more deserving of this award than Catherine. She was a burning, blindingly bright light, one that illuminated everything around her and everyone who had the privilege to know her warmth. It's cold, dark, and the snow is falling. Your feet are numb with fingers like icicles. You need a place to be warm. Your tummy rumbles as you try to remember the last time you ate. Loneliness sets in as you remember loved ones from the past. Her story was one, like many to those of countless youth, yet completely unique. A story that just hearing a snippet of made you realize that you were talking to a person whose life could be defined as courageous. She began her career as a peer researcher, where she was reconnected with 30 of her foster siblings and learned that many of them had been experiencing homelessness after aging out of foster care. Her first act of social justice advocacy was done alongside her foster siblings. They all signed and taped a piece of cardboard onto the door of the Ministry of Children and Family Development saying, "Youth are aging out of foster care into homelessness. We need your help." Sadly, this plea was left unanswered, and her friend who had helped lead this initiative was murdered. Driven by passion and courage, Catherine persevered and gathered a group of people in an abandoned building as a grassroots collective to create housing for youth aging out into homelessness in Kamloops, BC. During this time, Kamloops was also selected to be one of 2 communities in Canada to develop a youth homelessness action plan as part of a national initiative. The city of Kamloops approached the grassroots collective and Catherine to spearhead this plan, which became known as A Way Home. From here, Catherine fearlessly led this group into prioritizing housing for youth and developed the WRAP Force, a collective of service providers in Kamloops providing wraparound approach to service delivery that ensures there is no wrong door for youth in the community. Because of the success of the work that Catherine led, the national initiative became a nonprofit and asked to use the name A Way Home Canada from the local group. During this time, Catherine was pursuing a human services diploma and then a bachelor of social work. The grassroots collective in Kamloops grew until eventually it became a nonprofit in 2018 called A Way Home Kamloops, which has now become a charitable organization since 2019. In December of 2019, A Way Home Kamloops opened Safe Suites, a 24/7 supportive housing program for the most at-risk youth experiencing homelessness. Safe Suites allows youth to create a home of their own, utilizing a harm reduction model, and it is a designated MCFD life skills program currently. Catherine's vision with Safe Suites was not to recreate the experience of a group home, but rather create an experience that allows youth to feel safe, cared for, and in control of their home. Catherine also made Kamloops the first community in Canada to conduct a youth-specific homelessness count, which we're now gearing up to do our 3rd count, which is entirely led by youth with lived expertise. During this journey, Catherine also co-founded the BC Coalition to End Youth Homelessness in 2017 that brought together youth-serving organizations, Indigenous leadership, and youth with lived expertise with a collective goal in creating a provincial plan to end youth homelessness. Through this work, Catherine and the coalition engaged and brought together government ministries to address top pathways and barriers associated with youth homelessness by creating ministry-specific reports that were informed by youth. This work brought to light the need for interministerial collaboration in responding to and preventing youth homelessness in the province. In the last year, the BC Coalition created 2 special reports informed by youth with lived expertise on the impacts of COVID-19 and the key recommendations to address the increasing gaps and barriers associated with those youth's experiences. Catherine started the coalition on our greatest journey yet to lead a coordinated housing response for youth who will be aging out of foster care in March 2022. We remain dedicated in this mission for the youth and for Catherine. In June 2020, Catherine graduated with her Master's of Social Work Leadership. Her master's practicum was done at the Office of the Representative for Children and Youth. From this practicum, she authored the report, From Marginalized to Magnified, Youth Homelessness Solutions from Those with Lived Expertise. This report elevated the voices of 231 youth from across BC with lived expertise of homelessness, and we've just passed its 1-year anniversary from its launch. Catherine's work was highly recognized provincially and nationally. Because of it, she was appointed to the National Advisory Committee on Homelessness and also to the BC Housing Board of Commissioners. Most recently, she was able to provide a platform for youth with lived expertise to have their voices heard by government service providers and other decision makers in BC. The youth advisors at A Way Home Kamloops hosted a virtual youth homelessness preliminary summit on January 21st, 2021, elevating youth solutions to homelessness, mental health, substance use, foster care, and more. Though Catherine left us before she could see this work come to completion, the youth dedicated the event in her memory, and we are working to complete a public-facing report, further highlighting their voices. This would not have been possible without Catherine's leadership in connecting us to government and her empowerment of youth voices. Her work speaks for itself, but her legacy is much farther reaching than this. She is a beacon of light for youth who continue looking up to when needing reassurances of hope, love, courage, and strength. This is the legacy of a true angel. She held the ability to turn adversity and trauma into resiliency and strength by finding light in a seamless, bottomless pit and harnessing it to make change for everyone around her, especially youth. She spread inspiration, love, and hope boundlessly to the world, and her name will forever be known in textbooks, media, policy, and in the hearts of all those who knew or knew of her, those being friends, colleagues, acquaintances, mentors, family, youth, and decision makers. Her legacy will continue creating change for generations. I wish she could know just how deeply profound her life was in the lives of so many. Even though she's no longer here, I wish she could see just the impact that it is continuing to make. She taught us with lived expertise the tremendous power we hold by standing in our truths and harnessing our experiences to create growth. She showed us that we can flourish during a hurricane by mentoring how to do it. She showed us that by having lived experience, we are not less than, faulty, or a product of failure, but rather we hold potential and the ability to make a bigger impact than those without this experience. That we are the experts of our stories and experiences, though it does not define us solely. We are human beings crafted by adaptability, strength, courage, perseverance, and hope through our lived expertise. And that we are capable and deserving of love from ourselves and from those who we choose to become our found family. Catherine will always be our inspiration at Away Home Kamloops, a pillar of guidance for the work that she fearlessly led and started us on. By continuing to ensure no youth ever goes without a way home, we will be working diligently to ending and preventing youth homelessness. Catherine said in 2018, we need a provincial plan to end youth homelessness by 2019. And then again last year, she said we need this plan by 2021. And we're here now, and there's no time to wait. We need to be implementing change this year and making a long-term difference by 2022. As Catherine would say, our most horrific life experiences that cause the deepest wounds can sometimes become our life's purpose. Together, we must prevent and end youth homelessness in our communities and our province. There is no time to wait. I stand rooted in action. Please stand with us.
Kira, thank you so much. What a beautiful tribute to your friend and mentor. Thank you for taking the time and walking us back into her story. And I'm sure that angel up there is smiling down and feeling good and confident in the work that you're doing in Kamloops. So thank you so much. And Susan, thank you as well for that lovely remembrance of Catherine McFarland, and may that beautiful award just remind people of all the goodness and all the conversations that have been started as a result. And let's get that plan done so that young people don't have to face homelessness in this province any longer when we've got such abundance around us. I'd now like to call on Adrian and Dylan. First Call is always looking for additional support. There's so much work to be done, and they are now going to make the case to you to continue to support First Call and to put some money in the coffers so it can be done to continue this legacy and this good work. So Dylan and Adrian, back to you.
Thank you, Catherine. And I just want to thank Kira and Carol, both of you, for your words of wisdom and your passion, and just feeling really moved at the moment. So I'll just share that. But moving on, so the coming year looks very exciting in some ways. I mean, it'll be hugely challenging. We are coming out of, or hopefully coming out of, this pandemic. It will be very challenging for our member organizations. For First Call, we have some challenges, and especially for the children, youth, and families who are most vulnerable and impacted by service gaps and poverty and all those things. So there will be pandemic stress for all. And social care gaps still there, and the inequities are still there more than ever. But this is also a time, this is where the hopefulness, and I'm glad to hear the hopefulness in the tributes to our 2 award winners today. This is a time to seize the moment. That's what advocacy is sometimes all about, opening a space for discussion in the public policy realm, for changing the status quo, for reimagining, for improving policies and investments, those really big investments that government or we as a society can make that most impact those with the greatest risks and challenges. In 2021, we look forward to working with all of our coalition partners, our partners in government, our supporters in every other area to achieve those 4 keys to success for children and youth that outlined at the beginning and that ground our work every day. We will continue working on all those campaigns and even more that I mentioned earlier, as well as completing our research project on children's right to housing. And we can do all this work, despite all the challenges, despite trying to do everything over Zoom or whatever. We can do this if we stay united in supporting each other as advocates and as organizations that care about children, youth, and families. Mutual learning, supporting that mutual learning, because we all know a piece, but the more we come together, we learn the whole picture of what's going on for children and youth in our province. And we need to continue to be courageous in our resolve to leave no child, youth, or family behind. So we need to sometimes say things that are hard to hear, to shine a spotlight on the difficult issues as well, and urge government, but ourselves, we are government, or we can be government. So let's make sure that we step up and say what needs to be said and raise our expectations always for children and youth. So this year, one of the challenges First Call is facing also is we're leaving our hosting arrangement with Van City Community Foundation and transitioning into a new society model. Change is always a little scary, and yet it's exciting at the same time. We've been around for a long time. So I'm going to turn it over to Dylan Falconer, the chair of our steering committee, here to expand on that a little bit.
Thank you, Adrian. And thank you, Carol and Kira, for those great stories. Honestly, very thankful to hear them. I first just want to acknowledge that I'm calling from the unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples. As Adrian mentioned, First Call is embarking on a new organizational chapter in First Call's evolution. After 25 years, we're finally transitioning our coalition to an incorporated society. Making this shift, of course, means we'll have some extra costs for setting up our independent operations. We've been very lucky over the years to have the in-kind support of a parent organization, while the support from our members and donors grew. We are focused on making this transition with the least disruption to our important advocacy work. We don't want to lose momentum in our campaigns while we make this change. And we're still in the middle of a pandemic. So your generosity and support is very much appreciated at this time. Now more than ever, children and youth need our united voice to be strong and effective in advocating for their care, protection, and the supports they need to thrive. First Call is critical for providing a voice to those needed most, as we've heard by the stories today. So thank you for working with us to make this work possible, and we look forward to all the support in continued years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much for those words. And this event, as most people know, is the main fundraising activity of the year for First Call. Because we've gone virtual, we're raising a little less money through ticket sales and the silent auction and raffle that we always look forward to. Therefore, we need donations. We're up to about $8,700 already. Our goal this year was 10,000. So if anyone has the opportunity to dig into your pockets, or maybe you've scratched a lotto ticket, or something has come into your life that you think you might want to share, and write a check to First Call so that that money can be turned into good actions and activities and support and initiatives to help children and youth across British Columbia. We'd really sincerely appreciate it. And we know that this money is desperately needed with the number of children still living in poverty in the province and the number of initiatives that are underway. And just to harken back to what Kira reminded us of a few minutes ago, there are far too many kids on the street not being properly housed in this province. And so it's on all of us to do better, because we can, so we should. So firstcall.org/ Donate is where you can go if you want to tap in and share a little bit of money. So firstcallbc.org/donate, and you can donate today or tomorrow or any day of the week. We want to really thank the 147 of you. We were up around 160 some earlier in the hour. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to meet with us and to listen to these recognitions and these calls and these reminders of the good work that is being done. We so appreciate your support and the good work that you're doing right across this province. I'd like to acknowledge all of our speakers today, to Diana and Adrian and Charlie and Carol and Susan and Kira and Dylan, and in the memory of our special honoree, I want to thank you all so much for taking the time for us. Please support First Call, and please make sure to keep some special energy and places in your heart for children and youth in this beautiful province of ours. Thank you for your time today. Be well, and we'll see you next year, hopefully in person.